Matt, we're on YouTube. How are you doing?
Hey, it's great to be here on YouTube.
It's great, isn't it? So this is exclusive YouTube content, not available on the podcast, but we wanted to show you a video that we did with Alex Opre, who is the head of marketing and e-commerce for Florist London. He took us behind the scenes, showed us how the fudge was packed. And this is about 10-15 minute video. Enjoy this, and we'll be back after.
So I'm Alex, I'm the head of marketing and I've been here for 5 years, working with the family. So I presume everyone knows a little bit about Florist, not a lot about Florist now.
There's different ranges.
So this is where Florist started. So this building dates back to the 1600s, and Florist took this building in 1730. This gentleman here, who's Juan Firmenez Flores, who's our founder. 9 generations ago, he bought this shop, and with the dowry from marrying his wife, who was English, took on the shop. And initially he was a barber, so he came over from Minorca, which was part of the empire at the time, and on his way through France learned the trade of setting a barber shop, and that's what he did here. Initially he was the barber for the St James's Hotel, which is it's no longer there, but was just close by. And then to be a barber at the time, you had to be trained in perfumery, because you were making hair pomades and talcum powders and things like that. So, and for the first sort of 30-40 years of the business, it was primarily a barber shop. So as you can see in this cabinet here, some of the original tortoiseshell combs and things that he was making at the time, and hair pieces. And then his children, Robert and James, who are, James is just in here, but we've got more portraits of them upstairs. They're the ones that really moved the business into towards perfumery. So that's why you see the sort of first fragrances that we've got that are still in the collection sort of date towards the late 1700s, sort of 1780. Plus is when the Valley sort of dated to, and Limes, which is still in the range. And then the business has primarily stayed part of the family. They've stayed in this shop. This is the only shop we have in the world. We're a global business, but we primarily run the business from here. We're all based here. It's a small team, so we like to see ourselves as a big brand, like, you know, everyone
so
knows.
This is the only brick and mortar?
This is the only bricks and mortar store we
Unbelievable.
have. So we've never left here, and the business has been handed down through the generations. Initially father to son, and then in the 1860s, Mary Flores, who was the 5th generation, took over the business from her brother, who was took it on quite young. His father died quite young. He took it on when he was 17, and he wasn't really dealing with it very well. And she took it on with her husband, which is his name is Boddenham. Hence, the family today are the Boddenhams. But it's a direct line straight through. So our chairman's the 8th generation, John Boddenham. His children are in the business now, Emily and Ed. Ed's our perfumery director. So all the fragrances we create today, Ed is the nose of the business. He's been here for 30 years.
And is he a nose?
And he's the nose, yes. So we have perfumers that work for him, but we made the decision 5 years ago that we wanted perfumery output from florists to belong to the business, and not to have sort of freelancers coming in and people working on things that then in 10 years you sort of see an identity of somebody that wasn't quite florist because they were in there for a little while. So Edward is sort of knows what florist is.
And as a curiosity myself, because I once met a nose, and probably one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And is he a true nose? Does he have the extra? Is it that genetic?
Yeah, it's genetic. He learned perfumery from his grandfather and from his father. He's been in the business since he was a boy. He's been working in the business for 30 years. He's got an incredible nose. He's incredibly humble about it.
Fantastic.
He's not particularly outward in terms of he doesn't brag about it, but he's got an incredible nose. And the perfumery team that work with him are also incredible. So we've got 2 perfumers that work here full time, which is really rare in perfumery. So normally you have the brand, and then you have a laboratory, and then you have kind of perfumers working, and we actually have perfumers working here.
It's fascinating.
The idea is that we won't know our customers unless we're working with them daily.
Sure.
So if we're working on a fragrance, customers walking in the shop are smelling samples of things that we're working on 2 years ahead of them actually being released. So in terms of the building and the setup, the cabinets date back to 1851. We bought them as jewellery cabinets at the Great Exhibition. Generally the shop hasn't actually fundamentally changed since then. We oversaw a refit 2 years ago now, which was kind of the first time we'd actually done anything with the space of any real value for 100 years.
Right.
But that was floor and ceilings, and we wanted to make this space a little bit more presentable because it was kind of, there's a lot of stuff when you've had nearly 300 years of collecting artifacts, and it was starting to turn into a little bit of a, everything was out but no one could see anything. So we've kind of tried to kind of curate it so you can sort of see various stories around you. Some Royal Warrant examples over here. So we've been a Royal Warranted brand since 1800, and we're the longest running business to hold succession of warrant brands since when they first received one to now. So we've never had a break. 17 in total, since from King George IV when he was Prince Regent right through to the Queen today and Prince Charles. And then other things in here you'll see some famous customers. So
My eyes
so
gravitated.
there's a few there. Other than the Ian Fleming one, just so the
Is that an established preference that he had? Because I know he wrote about Floris, obviously.
Yeah,
in the
no,
book.
that's right. Yes, yeah. He doesn't write about number 89 in the books,
Right,
but
right.
the fragrance was released in 1951,
Okay.
and John Bodnams, who's still in the business, and his grandfather remember
Right.
him being in here, and they were quite, he used to come upstairs and have conversations, and he sorely wore number 89. So it became a sort of folk. We actually never released it.
Right.
It became one of those things. This is from the 50s, and
Sure.
that was in the day when we didn't talk about who our customers were. We still don't, you know, we're quite private about it in terms of
Right.
kind of who walks through the door and whose sort of names we see pop up online, placed in order. But that's one of those that's just sort of built steadily over time. We've never actively promoted it,
Yeah.
and people who care have found out, and it's kind of built and found its own.
Do people come in here ever and say, I want the Bond cologne?
Yeah,
Yeah.
reasonably regularly.
And which one do you direct them to?
Well, it's kind of written. When something's out, we don't then say, "Well, we can't tell you," because
Right,
it's no
right.
longer a secret.
Of course,
yeah.
sure,
So it's
sure.
it's in the domain now.
Yeah.
So we don't discuss what the Queen buys.
Right,
We
sure,
never
sure.
discuss what the Queen buys. There are some
Yeah.
people who've taken very good guesses, but we never verify that.
Got it.
But whereas with this one, it's,
But she's still quite partial to number 89, really, as well.
And
Number 9? Yeah.
It's
like a Lynx Africa
yeah,
club.
still maintains the royal appointment, correct? Yes.
so
17, that's going back to,
17, yeah.
17 royal.
Right.
That's just,
Right.
that's, that's incredible. It's a long line of George
It's a
IV,
really
yeah,
positive
Prince
relationship,
Regent.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the 89, the 89 wasn't what was discussed in the James Bonds. Lime's Bath Essence is mentioned in Dr. No, and I get this wrong, but there's a reference in
Literary Bond people.
Diamonds Are Forever, but it's not a specific product. I think it's a Bath Essence in general.
Anyway? Anyone?
There's a letter between
Mark, you got that?
Ian Fleming and Michael Bodnam, who's grandfather of Edward, saying congratulations for the release of your book. And,
Oh, nice.
there's a passage of a dialogue there. And it's sort of built steadily for us. We've never, like I say, we never publicise it. We do get people coming into the business who, and they will say they want to buy the number 89 fragrance, and just, do you want to smell it? Doesn't matter.
One and done.
So
Yeah.
How would you describe the fragrance?
it's a classic sort of barbershop fragrance, so it's of its time. It's still, we don't tend to kind of create fragrances that follow trends. It's definitely of its time though. It's very sandalwood, it's quite heavy in the base. It's got that kind of, so barbershop fragrances tend to have kind of like quite herbaceous lavender based sort of heart notes, and then kind of citrusy sort of bergamot top notes. So it kind of follows that traditional pattern, but it's a really well crafted fragrance. It's a really complex recipe, and they don't. Most fragrances today don't have such complex recipes. We've still got the books in the back, and they're kind of really long, detailed recipes, and we're still sort of known for that kind of creating fragrances that are really well structured, that really kind of flow through. So it's even now it still flows really well as a fragrance. You still get a really long journey. It still carries really well. It's still people still who wear it still say, I can smell you kind of coming. It's
The
kind of
silage
like,
of it.
No, nice.
So from a literary bond standpoint, in the novel Moonraker, the quote is, "Florist provides the soaps and lotions in the lavatories and bedrooms. In Diamonds Are Forever," the quote is, "He would have to send a cable to May to get things fixed. Let's see. Flowers, bath essence from florists, air the sheets." And in Dr. No, it was mentioned, there was everything in the bathroom. Florist line bath essence for men and Guerlain bath cubes for women. So those are the main. So florist is mentioned in many.
Yeah.
So if you go back, even sort of to the beginning of the sort of 20th century, it was predominantly run by the big houses. So Guerlain in France and Florist in London.
Yeah.
And there was a kind of passage of. It was in the day when they were friends. We used to sell Guerlain in the shop centuries ago,
Right.
And vice versa, because. We were kind of the main player in London, and they were the main player in France. And when the Napoleonic Wars were taking place, a lot of the perfumers from Guerlain had to come to London because they no longer could sort of do their trade in the
Right.
palaces because they weren't welcome anymore. So a lot of them came, and that's kind of what really drove the kind of perfume sort of association with London.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, and then it kind of went back to France
Yeah.
for a long time. And it's kind of so, but we've sort of stayed here throughout that process. So it's the only shop we have. It's a listed building, so it's one of the few listed buildings in London where the inside's as listed as the outside. So the furniture.
And so, what does that mean? A listed building?
Well, so a listed building, a grade 2 listed building means that it's protected under English heritage. So in the
so
same
no
way,
alterations can be made to the interior or the exterior.
it's
of the
usually
building.
exterior on listings, so they're very protective of kind of how you handle the exterior. And we've got a beautiful exterior, so yeah, we can't touch the outside without permission. It's the same as a
heritage
building, but then if you actually look at the listing, the cabinets are referenced on the listing, which means that again,
Yeah.
they're part of the kind of like the heritage of the building.
And would you say that, let's say, the complex recipes of these fragrances, is that what tends to make it, give it longevity? Let's say the change in people's body chemistry, and now versus wearing a spring or summer fragrance, how your own scent changes versus the colder months, and yet you can wear these fragrances and they extend both through seasons and through multiples. Let's say musks and scents of men and women.
I wouldn't, definitely in terms of seasonality, people are starting to buy more than one fragrance. So I think maybe a generation ago you would have carried one fragrance and that would have been your fragrance of life, and we see more and more people building wardrobes and thinking about the things that you're talking about, which is having spring fragrances in their wardrobe and winter fragrances an evening and day, and people are starting to think that skin definitely does make a difference. It's well known now. So
Allergies.
again, when we're selling fragrance, we generally tend people come to Florist and they spend a bit of time with us, so it's not like a department store shop floor where people are kind of like spraying and making instant decisions.
Fragrance Nazi, as we call them in North America.
So it's,
That was appropriate.
it's a well
Sorry, that's America.
in perfume, like I shouldn't say because I work in marketing, the top notes in fragrance are sometimes known as the marketing notes because they're the ones that on the shop floor they're trying to sell the fragrance, but they tend to be the ones that last the shortest amount. They're the ones that the molecule structure is quite light on, so citruses and things they dissipate quite quickly. But when we tell people to come to smell our fragrances, we tell them to kind of wear them and take them out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wear them for a while, come back, see how you feel in an hour, because that's, and if you actually smell the glass jars, the reason that's there is that gives you the heart of the fragrance. So we're trying to get people to smell kind of not just what the sort of top notes smell in skin, where you've broken them and they're kind of quite fresh, but actually what does a fragrance smell like in 2 hours? But some fragrances do last 3 or 4 hours. They're designed to. So the cologne fragrances, the citrus fragrances, they're not designed to last 12. And you can up the perfume levels, but sometimes it just makes it not a great fragrance. Sometimes the simplest recipes are the best recipes, sometimes the complex ones are. I think 89's lasted a test of time because it does that thing that a barbershop fragrance does very well, where it's got a really great base, but it's still a light fragrance, so you can wear it in the winter, you can wear it in the summer. It doesn't kind of really have it's kind of an everyday fragrance.
And today's fragrances, they don't do that. Either they dissipate too quickly, or the heart note is too strong, and then by the time you get to the base note, it's almost an afterthought.
Some do, but some people are still doing it very well. Like thousands and thousands of fragrances get launched every year by a multiple of brands, and some of them are really good at it. We're not the only people making good fragrances, but some of them are not good, and that's just the nature of any business. We try and do a really good job of ours, and leave everyone else to do what they're doing. But we generally launch 1 to 2 fragrances a year into the collection now. We're not a churn house in terms of kind of how we've only got about 36 fragrances in the range over a 300-year period of building them.
Matt, that was pretty cool, right?
It was really cool.
It was really cool.
You know, I'm a big fan of Floris. It's really great to hear how they do things, and just get some inside information, and just their connections with Bond. But so what Floris products do you have?
Okay, so I was kindly gifted a small vial of the number 89. And it's a weird thing to call that, actually, isn't it? Like a vial. I think that's the right name for it when you're just getting a little test tube sample. I don't have it to hand, but it was just something that you basically give out as sample packs. I was gifted that and a moisturizer, the Gentleman's Moisturizer, which was actually really, if it smelled, the first thing you register with this are some real wood notes. And when you apply it, you really get that sandalwood. There's neroli in there, there's bergamot, but you really have, and it's not overpowering. It just feels fun. It feels very forest floor, as they say in the wine tasting seminars. It just feels very masculine. I mean, I've got a couple of moisturizers, and they're all very citrusy, and you put it on and you feel nice and lathered up, but you don't get to feel quite masculine, if that makes any sense. So I really appreciated that. But Matt, you've got a couple of products as well.
So I have actually 2 Florence fragrances here.
Floris fragrances.
Wait, what did I say?
Florence.
Oh, okay. I have 2 Floris fragrances.
Great.
We can cut that, right?
We'll put that. Yeah, we'll cut that out.
Okay.
Florence.
We have 2 Floris fragrances here. So this is the Santal is it has that sandalwood that you were talking about. It's a really it's woody, but it's a fantastic one. For autumn, winter. But I guess you can even wear this all year round. I love the smell of this one. It's a really great, and I love this that traditional packaging, and the just this. Oh,
nice.
There we are.
Nice.
I love the bottles, the labels. It's beautiful. And then I also have this other one that I got on my last trip to London, the Bergamoto di Positano.
Okay.
And so it's not as much of the traditional English scent, but it has nice bergamot and vanilla. It's a good at this time of year. And this one has a really interesting box too. It actually has this little tab up here.
Ah.
And another box inside.
Cool.
I mean, I love this. This packaging is beautiful. And then open this one.
Whoa.
And it comes in this.
It's like it's got its own throne.
Yeah, it really does. Now this bottle is similar to the other one, that traditional bottle, and but it's just the packaging of this one is fantastic. So I've really been loving this one. It's a great one for the summer, for warmer weather. Because that bergamot and it's.
What was the first one called again, Matt? Sorry.
The first one is called Santal.
Santal. Okay, and so that's more of a black tie fragrance, would you say?
No, I wouldn't say that. I'd say it's I think it's probably a bit more of a daytime type of fragrance.
Okay.
It's not overpowering. It's probably not as I think for evening wear. I think it's something spicier. It's probably better. This one is woody and but just really pleasant.
Nice. Great. Well, thanks for putting some money in the British economy, Matthew. That's why we love when you come to London, stopping by the.
It's really the only place I want to shop.
Yeah.
I don't shop much in New York. London's the only place. Because when I go on like holiday to anywhere other than London, I really don't buy anything to bring home with me. Like pretty much never buy anything. For at least not for myself. I have to buy it for Jana.
Yeah.
But when I go to England, I go to London, I am buying a lot of stuff there.
Great. Well, we've got so many great shops. We've got so many, especially on Germain Street. I mean, everyone knows about Savile Row, but Germain Street, especially for Bond, you can't really beat it. And what was great when we did the Bond Experience Day was just seeing how everyone, we weren't just there to get the free Prosecco. People were interested in the products genuinely, and many of the influencers actually stopped and bought some of the products. David Zaritsky got a hat from Lock & Co, a beautiful Panama, and then next day wore it to Wimbledon with Daniel, and you could just see the pictures and how well it complements the outfits. You're not buying novelty gifts from these shops, you're buying things that will actually last and be practical. So Floris, thank you. I should say thank you to Alex Opre for giving us the tour. Really interesting, and we'll be back with another video sometime next week. Buenas fortunas, Matios.
Goodbye, Countess.